Welcome, WASP Nation. I bid you welcome. The WASP US tour last year was a huge success with many sold out shows, and now WASP is preparing for their European tour that begins on March 17th in Manchester, England. The European tour runs through May 18th, ending in Bulgaria. Get your tickets now for the European tour at waspnation.com. Also available for the European tour are meet and greet VIP tickets. Take it from me, this is a great opportunity to get to meet Blackie in person, get a photo with him, get a couple of autographs, and take part in an intimate Q&A session with Blackie Lawless himself. You can also purchase your meet and greet tickets at waspnation.com. And last, don't forget, you can also purchase official WASP Tour merchandise and exclusive classic design t-shirts at waspnation.com. Computer? Welcome. I bid you welcome to my music corner of the world. I am Johnny Metal, the Metal Dad, John Clauser, whatever you want to call me, as your host, with my fellow wild one of all ages, my fellow animal, my fellow manimal, whatever your other fellow thing you want to throw out there. John, the music nut, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. You were just in my head because today I was going to say, today I am the manimal, half beast, half man.
Half beast. Yes. Great. What a song. Anyway, yes. So I think if that gives you guys a little bit of an indication today, we will be talking a little bit about Live in the Rain. No, Live in the Raw. Yes, I saw this on a WASP group. If somebody looked at their copy and it said rain, it looked like it said rain, not raw. But anyway, Live in the Raw. This was the first live WASP album to be released. Live, unless if you're counting live offerings, this would be technically the second, because of course you had Live at the Lyceum on video. Right. And somebody told me about somebody on the WASP group said that, yeah, you could find Laserdisc versions of that on eBay for about $500. Remember those things, kids?
Boy, yeah.
Boy, oh boy. I can only imagine. But Live in the Raw, and so Live in the Raw, September 28th, 1997. I remember this, or 1987, excuse me, 1987. I remember this day very well because I on my lunch break from work, I drove myself to the mall. And I remember on that day, I went into the record store, which was Camelot Music, and I went looking, boom, there it was. I asked anybody, hey, anybody gotten this yet? And they looked at me like I was nuts. Like, why would anybody buy that? Of course, I was the first one at Camelot Music on September 28th, 1987 to buy it. So yes, I walked home with this album, and I could not wait. It would be, for the longest time, this would be my way of getting to hear the band live, because I never got to see them in concert. So with that said, let's look at how this album did, as we've been looking at previously. Thanks to Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation, he gave me a little insight on the Australian albums. This peaked at 97 from the Kent Music Report. So this Kent Music Report, from the way he kind of described it to me, is kind of like a Billboard Hot 100 or top 200 albums kind of story or kind of publication. It got replaced in the 90s by something he said he couldn't remember. But anyway, I appreciate that information, Peter. Thank you so much for that. I need to find somebody from Finland to thank, because the Finnish charts, this one peaked at number 30. German, this one peaked at number 61. In the UK, this went all the way up to 23. So they did really well in the UK. Billboard top 200 here in the US, it peaked at 77. We had technically two singles. They did a live performance for I Don't Need No Doctor and Scream Until You Like It, which was a studio track that charted at the UK charts at number 32. And that is all the charts. we basically at the end of this tour, we say goodbye to Steve Riley as he would go on to play with LA Guns. And the band kind of takes a little bit of a break. But we're going to get to that a little later on. So but this would be the main way I would get to hear this band live for the longest time. So with that said, first, let's throw it over to John the Music Nut and let's see what his thoughts were about this lovely little ditty.
Well, I bought this back in September of '87. Joe Nardone's Gallery of Sound. More music for your money, and they're still around. They had a store in Edwardsville back then, which was 2 miles from my hometown of Courtdale, Pennsylvania. And Courtdale is a nice little town. Big shout out to my friends Frank and Vince. We all love W.A.S.P. I haven't seen them in a long time, but they're great guys. I love you guys. Flight of Naracus. That's all I gotta say.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll. Yeah. And so I picked that up there. And like I said, Gallery of Sound still has 2 stores in Wilkes-Barre and Dixon City. Anyway, I don't have the original CD anymore, but what I did was I picked up this on eBay. Now this is inside the Electric Circus, but this is a 2-disc set. The second disc has Live in the Raw, and it has the 11 tracks from the original album, as well as 3 bonus tracks that were live from this tour. Now, when they did this tour, this was primarily recorded at the Long Beach Arena, but there was also recorded at the California Theater as well. And both in California, of course. And I want to give a shout out to Crimson, who's been writing some great comments in our shows. He educated me on W.A.S.P playing arenas during this tour, and he was absolutely right. They did play arenas. I didn't think about it much because back then we had mid-sized arenas. Now it's like you have your 2,000 seat theaters, maybe 3,000 seats, and then it goes up to 10. But back then you had a lot of 5,000-6,000 seat arenas. And there was one 2 miles from my house called the Kingston Armory in Kingston, Pennsylvania. W.A.S.P never played there. At least I don't believe they ever did. But there were mid-sized arenas that they did play on this tour, like San Jose Civic Auditorium, the Toledo Sports Arena, the City Coliseum in Austin, Texas, Fair Park Coliseum in Dallas, Texas, and of course, Long Beach Arena in Long Beach, California. So they did play them. It was just a mid-sized arenas. And there were a lot of bands who were at that point in their career where they were ready to break. They were playing a lot of places like this, as well as more established artists. Like I mentioned, the Kingston Armory. I did see Alice Cooper there with Vinnie Vincent as an opener in '86. And I also saw Bon Jovi as a headliner with Cinderella as an opener when they were getting white hot at that point, and they oversold the venue. Wow. But anyway, yeah, I mean, you couldn't get another person there with a shoehorn. It was crazy. It was a good show. But this, and that's Live in the Raw. Now, this is a good live album. It has a very good dose of some of the best songs from the first 3 albums. Excuse me, they open with Inside the Electric Circus. One thing about this album, and this re-release, this is from Icarus Records. The drums are really up in the mix. You could really hear Stephen Riley's snare. Stephen Riley is playing his ass off on this album. He does an excellent job. As far as the live performances, they don't really deviate much from the studio performances. Not much at all. You don't hear anything. Maybe Sleeping in the Fire is stretched out a little bit, but outside that, they pretty much play it straight. But as far as the track listing, you have Inside the Electric Circus, it was from that tour, and they go right into I Don't Need No Doctor, which was a cover of the version. Most it was Ray Charles did it, and then Humble Pie made it a bigger song. It's the version that's most well known. And then they go into 9-5 Nasty. So right there, you got the 3 lead songs from Inside Electric Circus. All done very well, but I mean, again, it doesn't really deviate much from the studio versions. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Next track is Love Machine. I'm sorry. It goes into Love Machine and then it goes into Wild Child. And they're both very good. Then they go into 9-5 Nasty. Sleeping in the Fire is the next track. That version's pretty good. A lot of this is, it's just they just play it straight. I mean, their performances are good. They don't disappoint you. At the same time, they don't blow you away either. The next track is The Manimal. That is one of the 3 new songs on here. And this one, along with the second one I'm going to talk about, are done live. Manimal, I like a lot. They made a video for this back in the day. And I didn't go and try to pull it up on YouTube before we started taping, but I do remember the video quite well. It was more of a live performance. And Manimal, I actually like Manimal more than Animal. I think Manimal's a pretty cool track. I'm not saying it's one of their best, but I certainly like it a lot. And then it goes into I Want to Be Somebody. And this one they stretch out for the audience participation part. And then they go into the next, the second new song on the album. And Blackie goes into a little spiel here about the PMRC, who really loved Blackie's music back in the day.
Very much so.
They loved Blackie. They loved his lyrics, and he wrote this as a tribute to PMRC, and this song's called Harder, Faster. You can imagine what it's about. It's another one of those doesn't age very well songs, but it's okay. And then we get Blind in Texas, which was the end of the live tracks on the original Live in the Raw. Then they have a studio track, Scream Until You Like It, from the Ghoulies. I'll tell you what, I hadn't heard this song in a long time. The song's better than I remembered. It's kind of silly, but it's a catchy tune. I like it. On here, we get 3 bonus tracks. These were all also done on the tour. Shoot from the Hip. Not a big fan of that song, but it's done well. Widowmaker, I think, is done very well on here. That's the next track. I love how you got the during that slow intro, how the crowd is clapping along. I really dug that. Performance is done very well. And then last but certainly not least, our favorite W.A.S.P song, Sex Drive. I will say this, it is an energetic version. I mean, it's energetic. So that is Live in the Raw. As a live album, 7.5. It's got a lot of the best songs. I probably would have put another one on there from the self-titled. Like I would have put The Flame on there probably, because I always thought that was a fantastic anthem. But I mean, if you're pushing that tour, you're gonna feature songs from that album that you're touring behind. So I can understand why, you got 4 on the extended version. You got 4 songs from Inside the Electric Circus. So, 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds fair enough. So, so my question to you is, how much studio help do you think this album got?
Listening to it now, it does have that feel on some of those songs. They sound too perfect. It does have that feel. I don't know how much. I didn't look into it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It does seem like there isn't too much of a variation in crowd noise at times. It just seems like it's the same volume a lot, which makes me think, okay, we got studio enhancement here. And there's a lot of live albums that have, a lot of were done to studio, but a lot of them feel live. Like Kiss Alive one always felt live to me. Peter
Yes.
Frampton Comes Alive always felt live. Here, it's kind of more like Alive 3 by Kiss, where it seems too perfect. You know where I'm going? What do you think? What do you think, John?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with that, because when you listen through this album, when you get to the bonus tracks, Widowmaker and Sex Drive especially, you can tell those have a lot more of a raw sound to them. Whereas
Especially the backing vocals.
Yes, especially on the backing vocals. And even Widowmaker to me was the tempo was faster.
Yep.
So it was, but yeah, it was, that one was, you could definitely tell, didn't get as much mix help or studio enhancement help. But everything else sounded, you could definitely tell they cleaned up a lot of sound, guitar sound, vocal sound, especially. Not saying that's a bad thing on the main album, because the backing vocals, Johnny Rod and Steve Riley do a really good job, especially, I always feel like it shines on like Wild Child. I think even 95 Nasty, you kind of get that. So there's really no I Don't Need No Doctor also had a good, strong backing vocal line. So as far as that goes, I think everything sounds, it sounds like a very clean, they really cleaned it up good.
Yes.
And I think now that I can say I've heard them and seen them live, now I can kind of say, okay, from, even though I had earplugs, I'm like, well, okay, that still sounded really good. Again, I don't know how much backing track was aided in the show aside from vocals, but musically they were right on target. So so as far as that goes, I think that was a good sounding show. So for me, I mean, there's really not much here I'm going to really throw out there. I still I love Wild Child. I'll always love their version of that. Stretching it out just a wee bit. Sleeping the Fire, I love this version. And I always love, even in Live in the Lyceum, that was kind of the guitar, that was Piper and Holmes's time to shine, because they both they both did a little back and forth on that one, and they stretched it out. And here it's just Chris, and he gets to stretch it out, and just I think I've actually managed to learn this whole guitar solo by ear. I don't know how I managed to do that, but I did. But well, it was all Sleeping in the Fire was like my first W.A.S.P song I ever learned how to play on guitar anyway. My guitar teacher kind of helped me with that. But Manimal is another one of those songs that if you were of the female persuasion riding in the car with me back then, this was probably not the song you wanted me to be singing to you with. You kind of turn into that character, the Manimal type of thing, Whoa, no, I can't pretend to tell you lies. Nah, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you lies on that one. I got into that song big time. Has that song aged well for me? I think in some ways it still has. It still sounds fantastic. I just love them. I love everything about it. Harder, Faster, yeah, it's the PMR, it's his love song to the PMRC again. But the thing that gets me with this song is when it gets to that dum bum 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 bum, and they have that slow section. Ooh, man, anytime a band gets in that locked in groove where they get that slowed, and then they do a little vocal, but then they do a solo part with some feel to it, you get me every time you do it. So that, to me, Harder, Faster wins the ball game for me. I still love that song. The other thing that now my CD version I have here is this one came from Snapper Classics.
Okay.
So you actually get one more bonus track, and that is an acoustic version of Sleeping in the Fire.
Oh, nice.
So basically you get, you know, the acoustic guitar, and then you get a little guitar solo in the beginning to add to it. And then of course you get the vocals. And then by the time the guitar solo kicks in, then they pull the solo from the live version, literally, and they tack it on that. So that's how and it fades and then eventually fades out. So that's the version you get with the acoustic version. I believe that was on the, I think that was on the, I think it was on the I Don't Need No Doctor or Scream Until You Like It single. I can't remember where the B-side was for that one, but it was featured as a B-side. Anyway, so that's pretty much what you got there. You know, you look at the back cover and some of the insets, you get a lot of nice collage of pictures from different tours. Of course, you get the girl on the rack, you get Blackie on the polar bear rug. What else have we got here? We got Randy. You got Randy Piper there. So you get a little bit of everything. Yep. And then you get that's featured in here on the inside. And then when you pull the CD out, then you get some of these other pictures, which of course you have Blackie with the exploding cod piece, and you get the, you know, up here with the ghoulies and all that kind of stuff. So so you get that. So
on here, on mine, you get this. This is an interesting
nice
band right there.
Very nice. I don't know why that was never included in the in our set. That's interesting. That's a pretty cool picture though.
Yeah, it is.
So,
and this is what the CD looks like from Icarus.
Oh, okay. All right. So it takes some of the pictures from that I just showed off, it looks like.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, you gotta love Chris with the assless chaps there, and
oh yeah.
from the animal photo shoot. I think that would be from Ross Halfin. I think that was his photo shoot. So so speaking of Chris, so of course now this comes out in now here's the other thing. So this mostly was recorded in March of '87, and September '87 is when this is released. So it's pretty. They got this out there kind of quick. But then there's this long period, you know, about 2 years or so, roughly, or yeah, about 2 years before this would come out.
Right.
So the band's kind of sitting on its laurels a little bit, and they get approached to do. I should have pulled my prop out before I did. They get approached to do a little bit in this. Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, The Metal Years. Now, the story goes, Blackie turned it down because he wanted a really crazy amount of money to do it.
Right.
He wasn't just, and I don't know if he would have, I don't know how much he would have camped it up quite the way they some of the people do in this movie. For those of you who have never seen this movie, I'm gonna say this. When I watched this movie in the late '80s, I guess was probably the first time I watched it. I probably rented it from video. You see the metal stars and our hard rock heroes in ways that you probably wish you wouldn't sometimes. You know, you see Gene Simmons in a lingerie shop with all these women running around in Victoria's Secret's outfits. You get Paul, who's in bed with about 6 or 7 women. I forget how many. It's like they're laying all over him. You get Ozzy cooking breakfast, which is really bizarre. You get Steve Tyler and Joe Perry, and you could kind of tell that they're still, you know, this was like after Done with Mirrors probably. So this was probably before they still came back big. but you could kind of tell that they were, I don't know, they seemed a little obnoxious during their segments. I don't know. You got Dave Mustaine being kind of angry, but that was kind of Dave Mustaine. That was his thing, So you had that, but then you had a lot of these newcomers like Lizzie Borden and Odin, and whoever was in London at the time, and um, oh gosh, Alice Cooper's in this.
Faster Pussycats in
Faster
it.
Pussycat,
Yeah.
Motorhead, all these people are in it. You got Lemmy on this mountain somewhere looking over the city. That's kind of cool. I'll give it that. That's pretty cool. But you get a lot of these people, these kids who are like, they're in a band and their big goal is that they're going to make it big. Well, what's plan B? Well, we don't have plan B. Plan A, we're going to make it. And thinking in the late 80s into the 90s, I'm like, yeah, that's me. That's me right there. Yeah, I'm gonna make it with my crappy songs like Sadist that I talked about last week. But but no, that's not gonna be the case, because what would come a couple of years later is grunge. And probably I would love to know what happened to some of those kids. But anyway, so when you watch this much, much later in the late 2018 or 2015 to 2020, this movie depressed me. But I can't leave the one scene out. Chris Holmes. Blackie may have turned the movie down, but Chris didn't. He decides he's going to have a little fun. He gets in his swimming pool. He's got his mom there. And, he's talking like he's already blitzed out of his mind. And, the interviewer's asking him all these questions. It was like, well, it sounds like you have some pain. Well, yeah. And he dodges these questions, and he takes this bottle of vodka and he's undoing it. And he's just, pouring it all over himself. There's been stories where it's like, is he really drinking? Is he really guzzling all that vodka down? Or is that just fake and it was water or something like that? I've heard a lot of different stories. I've heard, yes, it's fake, or I've heard, no, it's not. It really was vodka. I've also, I've heard a lot of different stories. So this is going to be my take. I've drank vodka once. You don't guzzle vodka down. It will burn as you're trying to talk afterwards. Especially that much. He's talking after he's done, pouring this all over himself. I don't know how much of it he actually ingested, but his voice still sounded the same. That had to be gimmicked. There's no way that you can drink that much vodka and that leave your voice as normal as it did before you started talking. That's my theory. I'm sticking to it. I don't know, but folks in the comments, please correct me if I'm wrong on this one. But anyway, so that's my take. Yeah, I think there's been a lot said about that scene, and maybe that was kind of the catalyst. Maybe that whole movie was the catalyst of what eventually would, rip the pants off of hair metal and the heavy metal scene, and that's when grunge would become big, and nobody wanted to be doing the grunge thing anymore. But live in the raw, you get this album there. This is Blackie getting out all that out of him, because Headless Children would be a completely different side of the band. Absolutely. So with that said, John, you got anything else you want to throw out there?
No, not really. I mean, I agree with your take on Chris Holmes in Decline of Western Civilization too. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think it was all there for shock value, just like Kevin Dubrow would be there with the bottle of Jack Daniels on stage, but it was iced tea. I mean, I don't think, yeah, as someone who has drank vodka, no, I mean, I was never a heavy vodka drinker, but no, he could never done that. He would never been able to speak after that liquid razor blades goes down your throat.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
So one more thing I wanted to throw out there. So even though so we call this series WASP Wednesday. So when this will be released this coming Wednesday, so I do want to give one quick shout out to Chase here in Birmingham, who's been tuning into the show. I got to see him last week at one of our local record stores here, and we got talking about he's been following the series, and we met at the show at the record shop, and we just got talking about a lot of different bands. And I had my WASP hoodie. We got talking about WASP. He got interested. So when we started doing this series, he started plugging into it, and he's like, "Wow, two super fans talking about it made me want to go digging deeper into this band." So when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, "Yes, that is what I'm wanting to accomplish." So with that said, Chase, I just want to say happy birthday, because this is your birthday when this comes out. So I wanted to give you that shout out, and just thank you for tuning in, and looking forward to hearing what your thoughts on would be on Live in the Raw and future records. So with that said, I am Johnny Metal, John Clauser, the Metal Dad, coming to you from my music corner. We got John the Music Nut coming from near Courtdale, Pennsylvania, which we have got to do more shout outs for, because that's we love doing these shout outs to the friends that influenced us, that we got to experience this stuff with. That's what, man, it's always great to hear those kind of stories. So we thank you for that. We look forward. Father, come save us from this madness we're under. Absolutely. And with that said, we will see you guys next week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe. You know all the YouTube lingo. We will catch you soon.